Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to continue to have a look at the very stormy conditions we could be seeing next week. We've got another day or two of warm, dry conditions as we get towards the end of the summer. It's 31st of August today. Tomorrow we'll be heading into meteorological autumn, and it does look like proper autumnal conditions will be arriving through Saturday, Sunday, and specifically through Monday to Wednesday next week. Could be incredibly windy with heavy precipitation, thunderstorms as well, and yeah, some real wild conditions. We'll have a look at the various models, what they're showing today. We'll be able to have a look at the UKV, which does now have with the 5-day time frame. We do now have the start of next week within the model. So we have a look at the precipitation, the wind speeds, and the position of low pressure systems with that, but also have a look at the mid to longer ranges. There is still a lot of uncertainty with what sort of systems we could be seeing. We're seeing more signs today. There could be some real extreme storms coming, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a name storm. As I said in yesterday's video, the ECMWF run today is exceptional with an extremely low area of pressure, and it would be producing wind gusts around 100 miles per hour, which is pretty ridiculous. Again, it's one scenario, but we are, as I said, seeing some real wild conditions potentially next week. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, again, nothing too much is going on. This has been a repetitive theme over the last few days. Dry, warm and pretty sunny weather quite widely. Temperatures again rising to the mid-20s today. Widely low 20s, but peaking around that 24 to 26 degree mark. Really quite warm, late summer conditions. And look at the live radar here in the last few days. You wouldn't think extremely stormy conditions are coming, but give it 48 to 72 hours and that precipitation is going to be starting to push in from the northwest, and by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday time, widespread heavy thundery showers, gusty, squally showers with very strong winds within that as well. So yeah, it is going to be a real contrast coming over the next few days. There are a few showers across northern England, but once again, it is isolated, and most areas are warm and dry. And if we put on those 2 metre temperatures just before 3 p.m, getting towards the peak of the day, again, widespread light yellows and oranges. That's temperatures in the high teens, low 20s, peaking those mid-20s in the spots in the south and the west, up towards Liverpool, towards the south through Reading, Oxfordshire, Bristol, Cardiff, all the way down to the southwest. These are the areas where we're seeing those peak temperatures. Slightly cooler further northwards and westwards, but it's still relatively warm, but those areas will be cooling down quite significantly. Now, one thing we haven't spoken about a lot while we've been concentrating on the low pressure systems next week is that it actually could be still quite warm and hot in the east. For eastern parts of England, it could still get temperatures in the mid to high 20s next week, as around the eastern edge of the low, as we have alluded to in some of the videos in the past week or so, we could see some very hot air come in. It would power the low pressure system, make conditions even more severe further westwards, and potentially eastwards as well, could produce a lot of thunderstorms. But at the times where we do avoid that, because there are going to be drier patches, it could be really quite warm and hot. So some areas in the east could still see some real hot heatwave-like temperatures next week. But I do think it's going to be accompanied by strong winds, a lot of cloud, and a lot of heavy showers, thunderstorms and torrential downpours. So yeah, it could still be quite warm next week, but further westwards, big contrast. Much colder temperatures in the low to mid-teens, and as I said, there's that temperature contrast which is fueling the lower pressure next week. So it's going to be real wild conditions next week, and be very difficult forecasting it as well. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. If you go over to the UKV and have a look what it is showing for the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. Now we run to this afternoon, a few showers across northern England, but nothing too much. Similarly, if we run to tomorrow, you can see again temperatures, precipitation. Nothing really, a few showers across the south of England, but widely quite nice. Some cloud around, but still plenty of sunshine. You can see to the northwest, the top left of the screen, starting to see some thicker cloud and showers pushing in. And by Friday afternoon, they are firmly pushing into parts of Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, through Scotland, and starting to see some heavy showers break out across the southwest, and perhaps some precipitation more widely through western areas. And as we head into Saturday, real heavy, thundery precipitation pushing in on the eastern edge of this low pressure system. We've got hot air, as I said, pushing round, combining with the instability. Lines of heavy, thundery showers, big thunderstorms could be seen with this, and yeah, really quite severe as that sweeps in and just sort of stagnates for that weather front sweeps through. And then through Sunday, another small low moves through, getting more heavy torrential precipitation quite widely through Sunday into Monday. And look at Monday morning again, more bouts of torrential rain moving up from the south. And again, the mother low is just sitting to the west of Ireland, just spiralling in all these little systems, all these little occluded fronts, all these little low pressure systems, areas of instability, and it's just producing this pretty much torrent, this river of precipitation. It's going to be really, really quite wild next week. The reason for that, as I said, look at that low pressure system. You've got the mother low out to the west, but there's the potential, this is what the ECMWF is doing and the UK Met Office run did yesterday, and still other runs are showing a little bit, is we could see a severe daughter low develop just to the south. This is what the UKV is doing today, getting down towards 990 millibars for that low pressure system, pushing in to the northeast through Monday and Tuesday. It could be a bout of localised extremely strong winds along the south. Widely is going to be pretty strong wind gusts this time of year, but there could be locally extremely strong winds, and this is where I think we could see a named storm if a system like this did develop. And if we do have a look at the upper air temperatures, you can see why it's all fueling these showers and these low pressure systems. 2, 3, 4 degrees across the Republic of Ireland, 13, 14 degrees at HPA across the eastern part of England. It's that temperature contrast, as I said, is fueling the showers and thunderstorms. And if we do look at the wind gusts, you can see nothing too extreme, but widely 10, 20, 30 miles per hour. And across the far southwest could get to 50, 60 miles per hour as that low approaches, but it is deepening, so that's why 60, 70 miles per hour is possible. Some of the most severe scenarios potentially getting up to 100 miles per hour. That just compares to now, where it's widely single digits, maybe low teens, maybe 20 or 30 miles per hour towards the coast, so it is going to liven up. And again, within showers, thunderstorms, we can see even higher localized winds. So yeah, we just have to see how it plays out, but it is looking pretty wild this weekend into early next week. Now, if you look at the temperatures, there's going to be a lot of variation, as I said, over the next 5 days. Temperatures widely high teens, low 20s today, peaking 25 degrees. Can be very similar tomorrow. Temperatures once again rising to those low 20s, maybe mid 20s, 24, 25, maybe 26 degrees. And into Friday, still quite warm, quite widely. Temperatures still 25, 26 degrees, but you can see parts of the west, specifically Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, parts of northwest England, parts of Wales, mid to high teens. It's turning cooler, 27 degrees across East Anglia. And into Saturday, still warm across East Anglia, east of England, 26 degrees, where we've got those bouts of precipitation. You can see very strong temperature contrast there, maybe only 11 or 12 degrees in a few areas. And that continues into Sunday, where it is widely a lot cooler. Those upper air temperatures still very warm in the east, but with a lot of precipitation, cloud moving in, it is going to cool it down at the surface. But upper air is still very warm, so it's going to fuel, as I said, those showers and storms. And as we head into early hours of Monday, because we have still very warm upper air temperatures, you're not going to allow those temperatures to drop overnight. So in the east, it could still be quite humid and quite muggy, because we're getting here a real clash of summer and autumn. And what that does is, because autumn's likely to win out, this autumnal low-pressure stormy conditions is going to get fueled by the summer-like air masses that are trying to cling on. And yeah, it could really produce, as I said, something real quite wild next week. And again, this UKV run is going to be chopping and changing substantially over the next few days. So I wouldn't take this too literally yet, but again, give it another couple of days, probably by Friday, Saturday time, that's when we're going to start to have these details a little bit better pinpointed, and that's where we'll be able to say really what is likely to happen. I do suspect we will start to see potentially Met Office warnings issued. Yellow warnings, I do think, are quite likely. Couldn't even rule out amber warnings with some of these extreme runs today. If we do look at the UKMO office run, this one really extreme yesterday with a bit of a Medicane potentially developing, or a Medicane type system developing, which is a warm cored low pressure system, quite localised, but could, as I said, produce severe winds up to 100 mph wind gusts. Today, we've got high pressure in control at the moment. It looks really quite mundane, but as that low drops out of Greenland, it goes very unsettled. Initially, through Saturday and Sunday, just low pressure around, quite unsettled, quite blustery, showery. But it's through Sunday into Monday. Look at the low to the south. It just spins up and pushes into the UK. Now, this system's not as severe as we saw with the system yesterday. But if we do zoom in, you can see that low pressure system getting down to 994 millibars towards the centre there. And again, you look at those wind gusts, looking at around 80, 90, maybe 100 kilometers per hour. So 60 miles per hour or so, 60, maybe 70 miles per hour. So pretty strong wind gusts and widely getting towards that 50, 60 kilometers per hour gust, which, as I said, is 30, 40 miles per hour. So really quite strong. And just look at the accumulated precipitation. Widely seeing 30, 40, 50 millimeters. Again, there's no point looking at the individual precipitation charts because, or individual sort of hour-to-hour precipitation charts of this range, because it is going to chop and change so much. But we can look at the overall amount that is expected to fall over the next 7 days. Widely, 1 inch to 2 inches. Locally, 3, 4 inches. Maybe some areas getting above 100 mils here, which is a lot of precipitation falling from that Saturday to Wednesday period. So yeah, really quite extreme here. And this is not just one run. All the runs are correlating with this much rainfall. The rainfall is one thing we are pretty confident on, is that there's going to be widespread heavy precipitation. Locally, though, that's where we could see flooding issues. We can't pinpoint that yet, and it's the winds as well, and the localised low pressure systems, which is still bringing us a lot of uncertainty. Now, if we run through the GFS and see how that does compare, again, the low pressure dropping out of the North Atlantic. Cisco overtops initially through Saturday and Sunday, but then it develops those little low pressure systems. This, though, stays towards the centre, so not spiralling in any of that real severe low. So this would be very much a showery, blustery theme, but I wouldn't expect anything too crazy in terms of wind speeds. And again, the low just sits over the top of us and continues to spiral through. We do see an ex-tropical system there, potentially ex-hurricane there out in the North Atlantic, and that tries to push towards the UK, doesn't quite make it, and moves through the Bay of Biscay. That's slightly further northwards, and that's what we're seeing on the ECMWF today. That really could bring something quite extreme in the south, with winds, as I said, up to 100 miles per hour. Just again seeing these continued ex-hurricane systems moving through the North Atlantic, right towards the end of the which of higher pressure over the top of us. But look, we've got one ex-hurricane, or even active hurricane, or tropical system. We've got two of them in the North Atlantic, and again, because of the sort of the chopping and changing, the very big uncertainty with these storms and how they do develop, they do play a massive role in what could happen with the jet stream in the North Atlantic. This is why anything beyond day 7 really at this stage is going to continue to chop and change, and we're just going to have to see what happens with it. But it is a real wild time in the Atlantic over the next couple of weeks. We have been watching this over the last week or two, but I don't think it was going to be this windy and this sort of up and down. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But for the time being, it looks nice the next couple of days, and then really wild from Saturday moving forward. And I don't really know what time frame of any of the stormy conditions ending, because we are seeing potentially repeated bouts of low pressure here today. Now, if you go to the GM, see how that does compare with the next 10 days. Again, low pressure pushing into the central Atlantic over the top of the UK, and by next Monday, Tuesday, a little low pressure system developing just to our south. We zoom in, again you see a little localised low there, but nothing too crazy, and beyond that, it's just generally under the lower pressure, really quite unsettled all the way to the end of the run, just with that low eventually exiting out to the North Sea, but still got plenty of ex-tropical systems and severe lows still in the Atlantic trying to push through. But we do have high pressure trying to maintain control, and it's this battleground. That is why there is so much uncertainty beyond day 7 at this stage. Now, if we do run to the ECMWF, and you're able to see this is another really quite wild run today. Low pressure dropping out into the Atlantic. We've got these small low pressure systems developing, could be really stormy through Monday and Tuesday, spiraling around, but it's this ex-tropical system or ex-hurricane there in the North Atlantic, very similar to other runs, but those runs pushed it towards the Bay of Biscay, towards France, maybe North Spain. This gets collected by the jet stream and absorbed into the low pressure system we have, and it heads northwards towards the UK and deepens as it does. This would bring severe disruption. This would be a severe storm. Wouldn't be surprised to see widespread yellow, amber, or even red weather warnings for this. That is an extreme scenario, as we'll see the ensembles in a minute. It's an extreme scenario bringing the centre of the severe low through southern England. But it just shows you what could happen in the next 10 days. Not going to happen, but what could happen. What are the scenarios on the table at the moment? And this sort of extremely wild, stormy conditions are still possible. Zoom in, 982 millibars towards the centre of that low. And for early September, that is really, really quite low. And yeah, the wind speeds, you can't have a look at the wind gusts, but look at those 10-metre wind speeds, and you can see getting up towards 50 knots. Sustained wind speeds, that's 40-50 miles per hour. Sustained winds. Remember, a tropical depression, a tropical storm is 40-50 mile per hour wind gusts. So this is a tropical storm strength winds, and hurricane strength winds are only 70 miles per hour sustained. We're not too far away from that on the southern flank of this system. So, yeah, really, really quite wild from this. And once again, look at the accumulated precipitation widely. Inch, 2 inches, 3 or 4 inches, all the way through to day 10. So really, really, as I said, quite unsettled, stormy, wild conditions over the next week or two. Now, if you finish the video by having a look at the ensembles, again, you don't see too much from the temperature charts because it is pretty much above average over the next week or so. As said, warm air could come around the eastern edge of the low pressure. We trend more towards average from around the 6th, 7th of September. So in around a week's time, we trend back towards average and stay around maybe slightly below, slightly above average. But we do maintain very high precipitation amounts. Again, for London, being on the eastern side of the low pressure system, we are most likely going to be affected by the severe storms and a lot of convection and a lot of convective showers. And that's why the precipitation amounts here are not too high, because the ensembles, being low resolution, as I've repeatedly said before, don't tend to pick up on convection as much, because convection is a lot more localised. They do well when it comes to big weather fronts associated with massive low pressure systems that we could be seeing in the west. So this is why we've got a lot of precipitation spikes, but nothing too crazy high and a lot of inconsistent. There's no real consistent timings on this because of the uncertainty with it. But there will be, as regardless of what this is showing, there's going to be a lot of precipitation around widely. Most sustained precipitation will be in the west, but eastern areas could equally see as much, if not more, rainfall, but higher intensity because of showers and storms developing. So yeah, really, really could be quite severe. And yeah, longer term doesn't look like there's too much dying off. If we do put the 10-metre winds on, you can see a real spike around that 4th to 7th of September point. 8, 10, 12 metres per second winds. That's very strong winds coming potentially next week. Again, there's no real point looking at this too much detail because it is going to chop and change. But yeah, just starting to see signs that definitely does look like there's going to be a period of windy weather next week. And you look at the sea level pressure, and you can see it is dropping to around 1,000 to 1,010 millibars. Nothing crazy low, nothing down to that 980 from the ECMWF Operational Run, but it is still potential. And again, you don't have to have the lowest pressure to see very strong winds and very gusty winds. It's the pressure gradient that makes that. If we've got 1,040 to 1,000 millibars in 100 miles, that's going to produce extremely strong winds, even though 1,000 millibars doesn't sound like a particularly low area of pressure. 960 millibars to 980 millibars in the space of a few hundred miles, that's not going to produce too strong winds, even though it is very low pressure. It's going to be very unsettled, a lot of precipitation around, a lot of showers, a lot of convection, but not too much in terms of winds, gusts, and wind speeds because the pressure gradient is not that high. So it is all about that pressure gradient. So that's why sometimes these sea level pressure charts are a little bit deceiving. Generally, of course, the lower pressure you have, the higher the wind speeds will be, but some of these, even though they're only 1,000 millibars or 1,010 millibars, they can still be extremely low pressure. And if we do look at the ECMWF ensembles. Look at the midnight run. Again, around or slightly above average over the next week, and then trending below average in the mid to longer range. But still, a lot of precipitation spikes, some really high precipitation spikes there. And again, if we do look at those 10-meter winds, you can see, if we go to the midnight run again, you see very strong winds, and you can see that ECMWF Operational Run here, around the 10th of September at day 10, the strongest there, getting towards 12 meters per second, extremely strong winds there from that low pressure system, and you can see that very similar on the sea level pressure. Look at it dropping down to 980 millibars at 10th of September. So it is very much an anomalous run, but the potential is there. And as I said, you don't need dangerously low pressure to get dangerous conditions at the surface. It just is more likely. So we'll have to see how this does play out. It does look likely we're going to be seeing some wild conditions next week. There's going to be a lot of rain around. That's one guarantee we've got at this stage. There could be very gusty winds as well, but it all depends on the centre of the lows and where those do position. And that at this stage, that is not particularly well forecasted. So we'll have to see what happens. And of course, we could see a secondary low developing to that south through Monday, Tuesday next week, and maybe beyond that through the 7 to 10 day time frame as well, like the ECMWF Operational Run. And that could produce something again very, very extreme. So we'll have to see how this does play out. Looking very wild, very stormy next week. So do enjoy the next few days where we do have some dry, warm, and mundane weather. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there next week, as although we aren't able to look at the exact details yet, from these pressure charts, we can pretty much determine it's going to be not particularly nice next week. So yeah, stay safe out there, and I'll see you again for another video soon.